Hey everybody. So normally I just work on this project on the weekends, so Saturday and Sunday, and I upload the day of working on. Whereas my other project, I generally work on that uh, 7 days a week, but I upload 3 days later. So I have a couple in just in case there's like an emergency or something, and I need to um, just upload something, but I can't work on anything. So yesterday I was very surprised that basically all these components are destroyed, torn down, and rebuilt on every tab click. I was under the impression they stayed. Um, they were built at the beginning, and then stayed around as you left. And that's probably just because of the way it was configured in previous jobs. And I do think that is probably the biggest gripe I have. I think Angular is like if you want to build a big application, you've got to use Angular. I mean, I know there's other ones out there, but the problem is there have been other ones. Like there have been frameworks around for a long time, and um, either they get stale, like they just like the whole browser and web environment changes so much that they don't make as much sense as they used to make, and then nobody keeps them up to date. And then like maybe they'll have like a new version, but the new version is completely not related to the old version. um, and then there's that, and then with that what happens is then you have to abruptly relearn from scratch, or they get abandoned. And if and I just the thing is Google has tens of thousands, I do not know this for a fact, but tens of thousands of applications built in Angular that they maintain. And uh, Angular, every 6 months they do an upgrade, they add new stuff, so you get to learn those sort of little, you get to kind of grow with Angular as new things come around, like concepts like signals and effects and RxJS and those sorts of, as they come out and as they start becoming, getting traction, Angular injects them in, and then you get to learn them in a iterative way. But like if you, in a kind of a linear way, um, but if you don't, you have to learn it like the new thing in a quantum way. Like all of a sudden you get introduced to something, and it's so wildly different than how you knew it before. So that's why I use Angular. Now the other big one is React, and I don't have any criticisms of React, but when I look at the two organizations that are backing them, one is Google, which I think if the government or any private entity or whatever, some trillionaire or whatever, decided, oh, okay, I'm gonna go buy this and shut it down or break it up or whatever, it would be really difficult because Google is just in everything. They're doing email, they're doing data storage, they're doing you know uh, CI/CD. They're just doing all kinds of stuff that just sort of is spread out throughout the whole place. So while I do not think it would be feasible to shut Google down and 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 then thus making Angular's biggest supporter gone. Um, the other one is Facebook or Meta, and Meta is an enormous organization and all that. And while it would be extraordinarily painful, and oh my gosh, like people would be furious. I mean, businesses would just be shut down. There'd be all kinds of anarchy and chaos if they shut Meta down. They could. It's at the end of the day, all it is a social network. They don't really control. They are very highly focused on having, by far the best or most effective social networking system. So like shutting them down, while painful, would be feasible. I do not think it's feasible to shut down Google. And that is the biggest reason why I stay with Angular, and I'm riding with Angular. So now this whole application we're building right now, I built this out in JavaScript in about a tenth the time. And I have the videos to prove it, right? Like, we're not even close to as far as I'd got on there. It takes so much longer to do it in Angular. I didn't even realize it until I started working on this project, how much longer it takes to build an application using Angular. But I can damn well guarantee that very, very few people would be able to pick up that old application I built that was in pure JavaScript, and even me pick it up and maintain it now. Like, just the thought of having to go back and go over that code to try to figure out what I did is terrifying to me. And like, it, because JavaScript just is really well built for building stuff. It's not very well built for maintenance. And it's not the worst ever. Like, there was another language that was very, very popular. It was probably the most popular server-side language for a little while, called Perl. And I remember talking to people. I used to do Perl. I used to be a Perl developer, and we would talk about how, like, you could literally write something, have a total grasp of it, and go out, have a half hour lunch, come back and look at that code and just have no idea what the hell that code was doing. And that was just Perl. That was just the way Perl works. So, anyways, that is just my little rant for what's going on. So, one thing that was upsetting to me, or not, or jarring to me, was that these components come back and go. And so I figured, I know I'd worked in places where that wasn't the case. So apparently there is a directive called mat tab content that will cause all of the tabs to be created in advance, um, which is pretty cool. But apparently you have to use this mat dynamic height equals true in order to ensure that when you navigate away, it doesn't get destroyed. So it looks like it kind of does half of what I wanted. Like, it will create it ahead of time, but then it destroys it as you leave, which, kind of defeats the purpose that I had in mind. And then, to me, this just feels kind of hacky. Dynamic height equals true. I guess it as a side effect, it must keep it, because it has to calculate the height in order to, so it keeps it around. So this is kind of thing, unless there's just an enormous advantage to it, I would kind of shy away from, because I suspect that at some point they will get this straight. There'll probably be a different directive, or an equals something, or something, um, that will cause it to do exactly what I want, is, render all the components and then just leave them up and don't destroy them as you move around. So I think I'd rather, because while I do see it advantageous to keep them up, I don't see it that advantageous enough to sort of implement sort of a half-baked solution that, clearly the material team will eventually resolve, and they'll resolve it in the way they want to do it. And whenever they do that, if I'm still interested in keeping everything up to date, I'll do that. So that was one thing. So the thing we realized last time is that since it does destroy everything, if I want to keep an active log count here, I'm going to have to create a log count uh, component. And so this is how I create components: is I go into the package, I hit Control P to bring up this thing, and I type in package. It's just PA, and package.json comes up. And I'm going to, it's probably kind of like API indicator, right? And actually, I think that since I already used that indicator word in the past, I should uh, stay with it. So log count indicator log. I'm just going to call that LC. No, this is where it matters. Log count. Over here, since I'm just naming the script, I can say LC. So basically, I'm just creating a script, an npm script in my scripts in my package that I can call, that will then just use the correct libraries in order to generate that. So I'm going to go into my other command line, and I'm just going to type in. And what I really do like doing is visualizing in my head or talking if I'm making a video talking out loud. So basically I expect to see a log count indicator show up in there. I don't think it should be a child, or it makes sense to make that a child of log counts, but what we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these, it's probably really time to start thinking about dividing these up into a way that makes them a little bit more that, because I don't like to have more than 10 sort of uh, things in a directory structure. And once I hit 4, I start trying to think of ways to divide it up. And I do think it makes sense to break this up into indicators and tab components. I think that makes a lot of sense. But anyways, for now, I'm going to do this. npm run lc indicator. And what that'll do is that will generate, and it will ensure that I use all the right libraries when I do that for this project. And pop, 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 pop. And I think that's good. And now, where are we at? We're at 11. So I guess, yeah. So let's go ahead and take our log count indicator. And I don't know why it's showing like it needs to save it, but this is app log count indicator, and we're going to bring this up into our app. And Control V. I think I just hit Function V. And so it's complaining because we have not imported it. And I don't know if this will actually import it. So it says it'll do it. So let's see what happens. Let's go back into our component. Now we have our log count indicator. And yay, log count indicator works. Now it's got some weird styling issues. Definitely. Let's go ahead and put this inside of parentheses. Crazy. All right. And then probably want to put that inside. I wonder what happens if I put this inside of a div. Probably we'll want to put it inside of a span. So I don't know if you know this, but a div typically will force a new line and is a block, what they call a block level element. So in this, it did work a little bit better for some reason. Oh, because I have the div. Like that. So typically it would force a new line. And so while we're here, I'm just going to change this to count so it's a little bit more. I think we, it is reasonable that there would be a 5-digit number. I think once we're good on that, we've gotten a little bit. So that is interesting. Oh, so now I wonder if I change that to a span, what we'll get. So spans are really typically used for like an inline if you don't want to break to the next line. And then it kind of gives you something to put a. Okay, so nothing changed. And then, let's see. I think we'll just give it a class of count. And we'll go ahead and do that real quick. And since it's a class, we put a dot in front of it. And we put that, and then I don't know why the V's there. Put some curly brackets. I don't know why it's complaining though. Oh, because it doesn't have any rules. And then I don't know how you do the line breaks. Break. So this is where I go to ChatGPT. I think I already have a ChatGPT up and running, but we'll go ahead and just redo it. In CSS, how do you prevent line breaks within a span? No wrap. But I love wrap. I think this white space no wrap is sort of bleeds in from printing. And I think I need to save that. And that did not work. So let's do an inspect here. Maybe I didn't do the right log. Span class. White space is equal to no wrap. And I don't, okay, so display, let's say display inline block. And then let's just border 1px solid black. And then let's set the width. Okay, so that's wild. Oh, and it's probably because this app log indicator is a block, I'm guessing. So let's try this. Display. Inline block, yeah. All right, so I don't even know if we need the other things. So let's just go ahead and grab this guy and make him an inline block instead of a block. So inline block basically means that it can have a width, but it doesn't force a line break. So then the question is like, okay, how do we push these down? And I don't know any like what I would consider a smart way to do something like this. Okay, so we would definitely, okay, so let's just make this display block, see what happens. And then top 2px. Okay, so I like this, how it'll do this, because it'll tell you. So it's saying that the position is the wrong kind of position to be able to do that. So that is such a nice, so fixed, relative, static, sticky. I think static is what it got to begin with. So let's just make it relative. And now we can take this top and see if we can, so we can center that to 5px, and then we can give it a left of 2px. Now, when you start moving stuff around like this, a lot of times it makes it harder to copy and paste the whole thing from and use it. And sometimes, you know, like other changes can cause unintended experiences. But I have found that inside of some sort of like Angular material scheme like this, typically everything is stable enough that you don't run into problems like that. Now, I will also say that like a lot of times what'll happen is you'll come in here and you'll see that there's an MDC tab or something, and you decide to start playing around with those. That's that's a poison pill. Yeah, I mean, you sometimes you have to do it. They force you to do it. There's the only way you can achieve whatever uh, management or whoever is demanding is to do that. But there will be a time where that ends in tears because you won't be able to do an upgrade in Angular material, and then Angular material is tied to uh, your version of Angular and all that. So like that is a nightmare. So anyways, I'm going to fix that real quick. Ah, hit the hit the and I bet you I'm over time. I swear once I start sort of doing um, sort of floating off into that actual hardcore coding, I just lose all track of time. Okay, so we actually want to change our log dash count, and we want to set the display to block, and we want to make its position relative. And oh, we were there. We were there. One more. And then we want to make it left 2px. And we want to make it top 5px. And yeah, that looks good. All right. So we are at 21. It's a little long. So anyways, everybody, happy coding. Bye.